Hi, my name is CJ and this is my RC channel. So, bag G. Here's a light bar. Okay, not going to need that right away. I'm going to try and do a nice paint job on that. Okay, we need this. We need this. We need these two pieces. Don't need that just yet. And we need our two sides. And this is when things really start taking shape. These two, don't need that yet, don't need that yet, don't need that yet. Might want to paint that up a little bit, do some silver on here and such. See? Okay. So, front. Need the grease anytime soon. Okay, so these two go rearward. Okay, they want us to do that differently. Let's do looks like they go in from above, or the box comes in from below. So that's going to be a pair of A115s, which is 3x10. So we need two 3x10s. The best thing to do is go about this in a very methodical way. Make sure you get the right screws for the right part. And that's another 3x10. And this goes on top. The screws come in from below. You could probably make this go a lot faster with a power driver, and you can probably also wreck a bunch of parts that way, because this is soft plastic and you can really make a mess of things just stripping stuff out. And the body won't hold together. Be very careful not to over tighten things, just snug them down. That's all it takes. It's interesting that they give us a serial number. Of course, in some countries / states, that may be a legal issue too. It's probably going to end up that way here. That way, or this way. I think it's this way, but we can figure that out quick enough. Yep. Okay. So those are 18s. Which means those are the 3x18 millimeters. Which is that one. So I need another one of these. has some really long hardware. One of the neat things about the way they're got this set up, when these pieces here plug into another part, like the one here plugs into this bar here, as soon as you start running a screw in, this piece starts to widen out a bit, and it kind of locks it in, helps lock it in place. So then these two pieces line up here with this receiver box. So I am not going to worry about screwing this lid on right now because I'm not going to put the receiver in here at this moment. I'm going to want to do some paint work on there probably. So let's see. Okay. Okay. And 312mm goes in here. And M318 goes in here. That's an awfully long piece of hardware for that. I just don't see why that needs to be that long, but I mean, if it's not going to come apart, that's for sure. I just think that a 12mm would do fine for that spot. It's not like protruding through anywhere or anything, so okay. And another pair of 18mm. You know what? I give in. I'm going to go ahead and get my powered screwdriver and just run a real low clutch setting because I'm going to wear out my arm doing this. Just make sure I don't do any damage. Okay, 2 18s and 12. Okay, so now we're going to join the two halves. I actually have this upside down. Ready? Okay. Let's start at the bottom. 2 18s. One here and one here. I've got this on the lowest clutch setting. So, and considering how deep these go in, I should be fine. Okay, a 20 goes in here. That's our 20. A 16, which is a 12 millimeter. When I say 16, I'm referring to the part number, 116, AXA 116, specifically. And our top is another 18. Okay, we have a pair of 18s, one here and one here. All these really long pieces of hardware. This cage is going to be really bulletproof. Okay, let's start back here again with the 18s. I think my battery's running low. The batteries for this particular Ryobi weren't kept in stock. You just couldn't find them for a while. And I guess a lot of people really loved this screwdriver and were upset and must have written to Ryobi because all of a sudden they became available again, just out of the blue. Let me just make sure that's tight. Good. Okay. We have an 18 up top. Right in here. Hope that battery's charged. I just put in. Oh yeah. It's charged all right. Okay, so a 16, which is a 12, and then the 20 back there, the only other 20. There's our 20 and a 12. These are both 18s. God, my hand would be falling off right now if I wasn't using this power driver. Okay. Top piece. Oh, don't want to leave those out. Okay. Now this has an up and a down to it. Okay, that's there's a thicker side and a thinner side. The thicker side goes down. At least according to the drawings. Okay, 18 to the rear, 18's in front, 118 back here, and up top here, a pair of 12s. Okay, so we need 3 18's and 212s. And then an 18 from back here. Yeah, I'll bet you these are for the hood. Those are hood hinges. Okay, so this piece goes back here. Let's see, which one's wide? Okay, yeah. And that uses 18s on either side. Wow. They love these big screws. It is adding a lot of weight. I think that 12s would be fine for most of these 18s. I mean, especially for something simple like this little back piece here. That's a lot of extra weight potentially added. So even 10s, I mean, for those of you who might be trying to shed weight somewhere on this vehicle, you might try switching out the 18s for 12s and 10s, and the 220s for a 12, a couple 220s for 212s, things like that. You know, the stuff down low I would probably leave, like the main square stuff for the cage here, but everything else I think could be considerably shorter and still have all the strength. I mean, God, those are almost halfway through for that little teeny plastic brace. Okay, they're showing us some optional lights, which I have. So, I mean, not their lights. I've got some Axial clamps and LEDs. So I will be putting light bulbs in these two headlights. Not going to do it this moment. You know what? As long as I'm... Well, no, I'll have to get it. I'll have to wire everything. I could use a Y connector for that. Okay. I'm going to pause and I'm going to look for some hardware and or some LEDs that I've got and figure out what else I want to do here. But, you know, I'm going to leave that off for the moment. Let's see where this goes. So that goes on here. What purpose this serves, I'm not sure yet. It's going to bolt in from below. So let's go ahead and get these guys in here. Okay, those are the 98s. 235098, 235098. Those are the 2.5 by 8s. This looks like it's kind of like the firewall. If this were a real vehicle. I'm going to leave off the lighting for the moment. I'm going to leave that grill off because am going to set that up, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of do the rest of the layout, get the suspension in place, leave the body panels off because I still have to paint those. Same thing with the driver's compartment. And then once I've got an ESC and everything else in place, receiver, I can figure out how long my wire runs need to be, where I'm going to put them, etc. So I can deal with that then. So this looks like it goes in here. Aha. Okay, you see the way we got these little lines here? We've got some like little ratchet teeth here too. This can be moved forward and backward. I assume this is an adjustable battery bay. So that, let me just hold that together. So you're gonna space this out to hold the battery of choice. And let me grab mine. Now, I am using a very small battery, trying to keep weight down, at least weight that's up high. And you just, I mean, how many hours are you going to crawl? How big a battery do you want to put in? I'd rather carry a couple of small ones all charged up and switch them out when I need to and not have, weight high in the vehicle when that weight could be, down low. So let's just figure out our spacing here. So that is pretty much where we want it right there. Perfect. So those are the 8mm countersink. So battery drops right in there, nice and easy. Okay. Now it's time to get all this together. Okay, 18s and 18s. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 8. Okay. Front end over here. How did that come out? Could I have the rear in the front or the front in the rear? Maybe it's just overextended. Okay, so I'm wondering Yeah, I think I've got the center drive shafts here reversed. Okay, let's try measuring. Yeah, the rear is longer. So, easiest way to do this is just to pull one of these ends off. Okay, so now it's time to screw our shock absorbers to the chassis. There's 3 mounting holes. Let's see which ones they recommend. Okay, middle in the rear and middle in the front. Okay, nice and easy. Be very careful with those. Unlike everything else, the shock absorbers do not screw into a whole lot of plastic. So, go figure. Be careful with that. And here we go. One mostly complete. Capra. So, lots of articulation. Look at that. How high is that? Almost 11 centimeters, or like 4 inches, 4 1/8, 4 1/4. That's sweet. Okay, so since I have not painted the body panels, I'm not going to worry about setting them up right now. That is something that I'll do later once I get a coat of paint on them. And I'll do the lighting. So let's move on to tires. That way we can bolt some tires on this and see what it looks like in its full stance. All in all, everything has gone together very smoothly. I haven't noticed any errors in the instruction manual. Either I missed it or they're just not there anymore. There were some problems that some people had pointed out when the kit first came out, and they've probably done a revision. So I'll save those screws for future reference when I'm finishing the body. Okay. So let's go ahead and put the hexes on. We need one of these spacers and one hex and one pin that screws into the hex. And we're going to want Loctite on that. I just did notice something kind of odd in the instructions. It says that this item is available separately, and it's like, why would it be separate? It's in here. I mean, I suppose if you need to replace one, but now one thing that could be done is using a straight pin instead of the screw-in type, and using different hexes to space the wheels out a little bit and give the truck a little more width. But I think this is already wide enough as it is. You know, we may experiment with that. So let's go to our rear. Slide on the spacer. Rotate the axle to rotate this pin so it's straight up and down, so it's easier to see. Let's take our hex, slide that on. I'm not sure what the spacers are for, because there's a bearing in there anyway, and the hexes are held in place by these nice threaded pins, so it's not really gonna get to do that. I mean, it's not gonna move, so maybe they're trying to just keep grind off of the bearings. That could be the reason for the spacers. Now, Loctite isn't necessarily necessary on these pins, because the wheel is going to go over the hex, so there's nowhere for this pin to back out to, even if it were to loosen. But I still think it's just good practice. Okay. That should definitely be the end of the Loctite. Okay. I'm going to do these a pair at a time since they're so big. Okay, now these tires, as I mentioned at the beginning, are the J Concepts landmines. It's a reasonably newer tire, and they're nice and soft. It's a very gummy, good tread pattern, great for rock and all kinds of conditions. It's one of the best tires on the market. Of course, that's opinion. This and the Proline High Racks are two of the most popular crawling tires for sure. Now, as you can see, these already come with a foam liner, but I wanted to, I like to have that aired down look, not just for the look, for the functionality. I've actually had off-road vehicles before, real life, and you know, I'm familiar with airing down your tires and then having to pump them back up again before you go back on the street, because you got them so soft it would be unsafe. But you know, that by smushing the tire down a little bit, you increase the tire patch because you're flattening the bottom of the tire. It's almost becomes like a tank tread kind of action, which is the reason I decided to go with these. It's a very soft foam, and having this serration on it, it helps it kind of flatten out at the base a bit like that. So as you can see, if I just push on this, that those collapse nice and easy, but it doesn't totally collapse the foam. So you know, that helps you get that, you know, slightly wider tire patch. So getting these in is going to be a lot of fun, I'm sure. Actually, not so bad. But got to get them situated at the same time. And these tires are very gummy. They're very sticky, so okay, so this is our inner rim. So that's going to go completely inside the tire. And it should get kind of centered on the foam. Take your time with this. Make sure that you have things aligned. Like the foam should be centered over this rim. You don't want it like off to one side on part of the tire. You're going to get an uneven effect. So I'm going to put the green dot on the inside so it's out of sight, because I don't want to get rid of that. And then here's our other piece. So let's try to line that up ahead of time. Now, those are our nuts, but they're a little bit short for being able to get at this easy, because we got to compress this. So what you can do is take a couple of longer M3s and you start the longer ones, and then that helps you compress the rim halves. It also helps you line things up. Okay, having done 3 tires now, I've kind of gotten it down to a rhythm and gotten some things a little easier, and I wanted to show you some tips. You don't need quite as many extra screws. A pair of 12 millimeters will do the job if you get everything set right. I actually had to take the first wheel I did apart because I hadn't seated this bead for the front rim correctly. It didn't slide up. The rear one did fine, but the front one was a little tucked in a couple places, so it wasn't looking as full here as it should have, and so I pulled it apart and fixed that. Now, first you got to get this hub in here, and you know, when I'm not talking to the camera, sometimes you guys may know, if you've watched enough of my videos, that I've usually got something on the boob tube in the background, and I sometimes share that with you. And today, thanks to DVR, I am watching the German Formula 1 race that I recorded earlier today. I've actually got the F1 series set up to automatically record all the practice and the qualifying day, and so I have that at my disposal. And in my queue, I have the entire 24 hours of Le Mans that I'm going to have to sit back and watch at some point. And I don't mean to make that sound like it's something I have to do, like it's a bitter pill or something. I certainly enjoy it. It can get a little boring at times when you're talking a 24-hour race, but still awesome. Those cars, especially the prototype cars, are amazing. Anyway, so what you want to do is start the front rim once you've gotten the center section in, and pull, hold in the center, pull to the side, hold in the center, pull to the side, hold in the center, pull to the side, and you'll feel it kind of pop as the main portion of the bead drops in, and then you'll feel it fully seat, and then you know you're there. So that's what you want. You want to have this little bit of a rim out and around this outer edge. So not over the top, just against that upper edge there. So that's what you want. So then come back here, line up the holes as best you can. Try to do a good job on that. That'll help. And then do the same thing. Just pull and push. Pull that bead out. And the rear ones, for some reason, even though they look like they're the same dimensions, just seem to pop in a little easier. The front one takes a little more effort. So put one of the 12s in and hold the rim down firmly, and kind of sometimes you got to jiggle it a little bit left to right to line up the screw, and you know, get it started at least, you know, 4 turns or so. You don't want it to pull back out on you. So put the other 12 directly across from the first one and do the same thing. And you can kind of angle the wrench to help point the bolt in the correct direction you need. And then once you've got them started, you can drive them in about halfway of their length. You don't want to punch through the front of the rim, as I did on one. I was able to clean that up, to kind of just use the end of a wrench to push the plastic back in, kind of mold it back into place. You can still see what happened, but it's not as visible. So now that I've got these down a decent amount, I can take these bolts and start running them. And do them, like, you know, put one in and then do the one directly across from it, and so on as you go around. And that'll help pull the rim down and keep it even at the same time. So now that I've got 4 of the correct ones in, I'm going to go ahead and pull out these 12s, since they have done their job. Now, as far as the F1 race goes, Bottas is in the lead. We're only about 3 laps in, and Hamilton's already almost 2 seconds back. I don't know what's going on with him. Usually Bottas can't even get close for very long. He almost got him on the run up to turns 1 and 2 and got in the lead. He was second qualifying, which may actually have been a bit of a strategy, because it's apparently on this track, it's the Nürburgring circuit, very rarely does the person who gets pole actually win the race. So he may have deliberately let Bottas get a higher qualifying so that he could be in second place, ready to jump, and use the draft to lead him into turn 1 and run from there once he got in the lead. But he almost made it, but didn't quite get it. And you know, Bottas is really showing some good form. It's almost surprising In fact, it is surprising. I kind of expected Lewis to run away with this season altogether and go on for his, I guess, 7th now would be his 7th World Championship. And he may still do it. I mean, he's got a decent points lead, even though he kind of got screwed last race. You know, I have my opinions about how that went down with the officials. They definitely had the option to not penalize him so harshly, making him do a 10-second stop for something that didn't even occur during the race, that didn't impact any other driver, that was basically just bad positioning. It wasn't even in the official rules of Formula One. It was something that was like specific to the track and the local officials or whatever, and it was an optional thing for them to hit him with the penalties, and they hit him with the max, and they knew that 10 seconds was going to cost him the race. I mean, there was no doubt about it. Once you lose that much time sitting in the pits, you're that late in the race, you know, you're just not making that up. And I mean, I kind of hoped Hamilton was going to show them up and run away with it. Not that I'm a huge Hamilton fan. He's kind of been a bit of a wanker lately with all his social justice peacocking. You know, it's like, you're English, you live in the south of France, and you're wealthy beyond most people's wildest dreams, and you get to drive sports cars for a living, and you're, you know, getting involved in American politics. You know, we don't, you know, our athletes aren't out there, you know, going, oh, you know, the British are doing this wrong or that wrong or whatever. And they certainly do have plenty going on that's wrong. And, you know, our guys aren't, you know, our sportsmen aren't ranking on other countries. So what's he doing messing around in our politics? I just think that's kind of lame, you know. Especially when it's, you know, virtue signaling like hell. It's you know, it's not like he's, you know, donating, you know, tons of money to some cause or something. He's putting on t-shirts with inflammatory slogans, you know, regarding issues that have nothing to do with him. And, you know, this whole idea that because you have a podium, you know, you have to, you know, say stuff, you know, I think that's ridiculous. And, you know, how in any way is he qualified to discuss world events? He's a race car driver. He's not a scientist. He's not a politician. You know, I doubt he's extremely well educated on any level. I mean, he spent most of his life, you know, driving cars fast. You know, it's not like he was a Rhodes Scholar or something. So anyway, you know, I just like seeing good drivers drive fast, and I'd like my politics and my sports separate. I watch sports to be entertained, and I try to stay out of politics as much as possible, which is why I don't have a channel, which is why I don't discuss my personal politics on this channel. I don't have a political channel, and I don't do political rants, and I hope this doesn't qualify, but in any event, looks like it's going to be off to an interesting start for this race. So here we have the rig. All tires are on. Tons of articulation. Look at that. The rear tire still isn't off the ground. And this tire is more than 5.5 inches off before the other tire starts to lift. That is super impressive. It doesn't have, it's got a little droop. It could stand to have a little more. I might go with a softer spring, because a softer spring would let it hang a little more. I mean, you want the center to be reasonably high because you want the clearance, but if you're like trying to climb over something, the skid plate will, let it slide and the wheels will drop down. They won't have as much pressure on them, but they do weigh a good bit. There's a lot of weight in these axles with the portals, and I may add some brass down here. So having a softer spring, because I can't adjust the preload any further. So having a softer spring to let the chassis sag a little more onto the suspension might be a good thing. Anyway, I think it's off to a great start, so we'll see how that goes. Looks fantastic. The photos really don't do these cars justice. I can't wait to get this all wired up and start zooming it around, having some fun with it. So let's see what's left. I think I'm at the point where I need to do paint and electric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plan out my paint. I'm going to start doing the electric. The paint I'm not going to bore you with. The electrics, I'll show you the relevant sections. Wiring up lights. I'm going to be adding front lights. I'm going to be putting in the light bar. I may add some extra lights here and there. I might put a couple small red lights back here. Things like that. Because it's a sandrail or buggy type vehicle, I'm not going to go crazy with turn signals and stuff, anything like that. Reverse lights, I would just do some red running lights to the rear, headlights, the light bar, and maybe a couple of spotlights off either side, where a side view mirror would be. We'll see. So I hope you've enjoyed these series of videos. I tried to show you everything, even when I started putting something together backwards and had to undo it. I don't have any problem showing you a mistake. They happen to everybody. None of the mistakes cost anything as far as damage or breaking anything. It was just putting the wrong linkage or something like that. That was pretty funny when I did the rear links wrong twice. I guess I was getting a little tired after, 6 hours straight on this so far today alone. So, as I've probably mentioned to you guys before, this is a one-man show here. I do all this on my own. There's no one helping me. I have to cut the video. I have to shoot it, I have to plan it, script it, everything is done by me. So it's a lot of work, and I appreciate those of you who have subscribed. I really do. Please free to leave any comments, any questions you might have. I'm always happy to try to answer within 24 hours and help you guys out. Thanks again for watching. Please click like and please subscribe to my channel.